Hello everyone, I am Don9151,
Hi, I'm Mekkah.
and you're watching Part 3, Chapter 3 of my Fire Emblem 10 Hard Mode 0% Gross playthrough. This is one of the best chapters in Radiant Dawn, and probably one of the best chapters in the entire Fire Emblem franchise, and I feel like the game developers know this because it also has the most iconic FMV sequence in the game, a really long one that shows off the battle between the Laguz Alliance and the Benyan army, featuring iconic lines from Zelgius, such as "interesting maneuver." But before we go around utilizing these interesting maneuvers, we have to do preparations in the base. And this is the first chapter in the Grail Mercenaries, in which most of their units have the ability to build a support. A quick refresher in case you're unaware about how supports build in this game. The general heuristic is that if you want to spend minimal effort on building supports between pairs of units, they have to spend about 3 chapters together per level of support. And you have to do a couple extra small things in those 3 chapters to fully get the support points needed for each level, but they're pretty trivial things like just standing next to each other, or doing a shove, or like spending a turn carrying someone. There are 4 support pairs in the Grail Mercenaries that we're trying to build. They are Ike Soren, Mist Boyd, in order to get a Spirit Dust in 3 endgame. We also have Shinon Gatrie, and in this chapter, Mia Titania. There's one more support pair that we couldn't quite build yet, which is Haar, a very interesting pairing. But that kind of influences our choice of deployments going forward, actually, because in order for units to build supports, they have to be deployed together, which means that sometimes we have to deploy suboptimal units in chapters.
Also in preparations, we spend most of our remaining gold on buying a Draco Shield for Haar, which is a bit counterintuitive considering he's already one of the tankiest units we have, but it makes sense in the context of the history of Dawn playthroughs. For example, giving the Draco Shields to Faida to make a strong unit stronger rather than a weak unit slightly less weak. We also distributed the 2 hammers that we got from the Crimean Royal Knights and the Dawn Brigade in order to deal with various generals on this chapter. The Grail Mercenaries don't have any hammers of their own, so this was a very welcome donation. This battle is as well liked by the player base at large as the cutscenes before it. It's a well-disguised multi-siege where we have to burn down 6 boxes in 15 turns to attract the attention of a senator that's out on the battlefield where Zelgius is in the aforementioned cutscene. Most players will be able to do this within a turn limit using Haar alone, because he can just fly around and reach everything. But this playthrough is so tightly planned that Haar only ends up burning down 1 of these boxes. The rest we have to do by spreading our units out in a way that fits their strengths and weaknesses. For instance, units that are good at combat should be where most of the fighting is happening, while units that are not should be spending their turns burning down boxes. For example, Mist, who can't really do fighting very well, but burning down a box, anyone can do that. It doesn't require any stats whatsoever.
Unfortunately, we can't afford to deploy too much relative deadweight in this chapter because our deployment slots actually matter a lot here, unlike in Chapter 3-2, where hardly any of them mattered. This is because 3 of the supply boxes that we must burn are in the north of the map, and while Haar could easily reach them and rescue drop a companion with him to help him out, it's too much for those 2 units to handle by themselves, and getting grounded units up to the north is a massive team effort. In order to assist with this, we have to be mindful of our skill distribution, so we gave Savior to Oscar, and this specifically allows him to carry Gatrie on turn 1 while baiting over Windsage and one-rounding him. We gave Celerity to Haar. This is mandatory. We're not able to fit Celerity and Savior onto Haar before he promotes into Tier 3, but Celerity is non-negotiable in order for him to reach his target destinations by turn 1 and 2. The last of our mobility enhancing skills is Pass, and that one we assign intuitively to one of the units going up the left side of the map. In this case it'll be Gatrie, so watch out for that. This makes sense because you can see upcoming there are a whole bunch of enemies that are standing in the way of a 1-tile wide passageway, and of course, this is the best place to use it.
Meanwhile, the enemies at the bottom of the map wish they had Pass, because Mia is able to single-handedly block an enemy halberdier from reaching Soren, who at this point is taking so much damage that he's not able to survive another hit. And similarly, Braum blocks the bottom choke point and stops the halberdier there from interfering with Mist's business of burning boxes of supplies. Haar and Ike get ready for a rather complicated enemy phase, a rather weird one because they only equip 1-range weapons, even though a lot of the enemies there have 2-range weapons, but their goal is only to make enemies move out of their way, not actually kill them, and this formation is able to accomplish this. Ike has Provoke and Resolve. Provoke allows him to bait away a Fire Sage from attacking Haar, who would take too much damage to survive the rest of the chapter if he were to absorb that. Whereas for Ike, because of Resolve, we're actually fine with him ending up below half HP, because the enemies will barely be able to hit him. Most enemies just move out of the way as planned. There's one general that only has one range, and he goes for Haar over Ike because Ike has Brave Sword equipped, and he would quadruple him for a whole bunch of damage, whereas Haar, to look as unthreatening as possible, even left all of his axes at home and was only carrying a couple of lances.
Lots of things happen on turn 3. Ike and Haar are going to do their own thing, which seems pretty obvious at this point what their respective roles are going to be. The more interesting thing is what goes on the left side of the map with all of our grounded units. So Gatrie uses Pass to get behind a general and tells him that he's already dead, except not really because he fails to one-shot him with the hammer. Without transfers or without a plus attack bonus, we cannot one-shot the sword generals in this chapter. We're just slightly short, unfortunately. And Gatrie also has to deal with kind of poor accuracy, but it is what it is. We're able to finish him off with a combination of Gatrie and Oscar, and then Void also had to kill a swordmaster to get him out of the way. This allows Titania to move upwards as far as possible to drop Shinon into an important position for turn 3 enemy phase. Lastly, in the bottom right, Mia finally got to duel what she thought was her white-clad rival that she keeps talking about in her support conversations from Path of Radiance. It turns out, though, that she was mistaken. This is just a poor Benyan Senator who dies in one round to her and drops a goddess icon. So there's 2 of these guys in this chapter. The other one drops a white gem. Soren mentioned beforehand that we probably shouldn't kill them. There is a slight incentive to not kill them. You get a little bit of bonus experience, but it's so little that Mia would rather take the combat experience from killing him instead.
Shinon is dropped at 2 range from a stationary general. He is the best person we have to get rid of him that doesn't involve another 1-2 punch with a hammer user. Haar's positioning last turn allowed him to get out of range of the enemies near the upper middle tents. There's a boss and a Thunder Mage there that would kill him even if he had more HP remaining. But even in the safer position, the enemies he is in range of still pose a lot of trouble for him because one of the snipers gets a critical hit, and he only makes it through because he got that Draco shield at the start of the map. Now that all enemies are tier 2, we end up facing low percent crits a lot more often since halberdiers, snipers, and swordmasters all have an innate crit bonus from their class. Haar does need to be in this area though for the tent visit on turn 3, and then land on another set of boxes to set it on fire on turn 4. The tents in this chapter function just like villages in other chapters. The one Haar visited got us the Hammerne staff, which is not very important for casual play, but it does matter a lot for LTC. And Titania gets us our first and in the foreseeable future only Master Crown. At the bottom of the map, Braum gets the Blossom Scroll from a tent. The Blossom Scroll is a very cool item that sells for 1000 gold. Shinon is shoved twice so that he can reach the upper left set of supplies. Titania looks like she can reach it, but she's 1 tile short, and we have no one right now that can shove her because she is on a horse. Speaking of horses, Oscar has one that he uses to burn another set, and also there are horses on this map. They waste your time, just like I'm wasting your time right now, but they run around and give you bonus experience. That's 3-3, completed in 4 turns. We'll see you next time.
Adios.